Hi, I'm Owen Fitzpatrick, author of the book The Charismatic Edge, author of the book Not Enough Hours, co-author of the book The Ultimate Introduction to NLP with Dr. Richard Bandler and Alessio Roberti, co-author of the book Conversations with Richard Bandler with Dr. Richard Bandler, co-author of the book Memories with Dr. Richard Bandler, upcoming very, very soon. Also, co-author of the book Scelgo la Libertà, which is the Italian version of Choose Freedom, or I Choose Freedom, by Dr. Richard Bandler, Alessio Roberti, and myself. Also, co-founder of the Irish Institute of NLP, psychologist, therapist, trainer, speaker, international traveler, brother, friend, uncle, godfather, stranger, if you don't know me, stranger, client, if you're an insurance company and car insurance or whatever, you know yourself. Anyway, I have a lot of roles. And this video, anyway, is about how to beat the winter blues. You know, at the moment, people are miserable. They're miserably depressed, and it's very, very difficult to find, goodness in that and find a happy way of thinking about that. And what I want to do in this video is I want to share with you just different perspectives, maybe a little bit wacky, maybe a little bit out there, but really useful ways of thinking about winter, and really useful ways of thinking about January that will help you feel better about January, or at least I hope you do. Hopefully this is a fun video, and as it takes a few minutes of your time, hopefully you'll find from it a little bit that'll help you to feel a little bit better about January. So, without any further ado, let me talk to you about, and I'm not going to plug all the books and stuff that come up, the Charismatic Edge, which is coming out on the 5th of April. I'm not going to talk about the Ultimate Introduction, which came out a couple of weeks ago, or Brian's new book, From Ordinary to Extraordinary, or the Charisma Training Academy coming up in March, which is going to be great, or any of the other things that are coming. I'm not going to plug any of that because I want to get straight to the substance. So what is the substance? What are we talking about this video? 5 different things help you to get a different perspective over the January blues. So, first is spring follows winter. What do I mean by that? Well, it's obvious, spring follows winter. Yeah. What do you mean? Here's what I mean. In life, there are different seasons we go through. Jim Rohn was the person who taught me this. Jim Rohn, a fantastic motivational speaker, talked about the 4 seasons we go through. And I found it a really useful metaphor, a really useful way of thinking about the way in which we handle challenge and crisis. Because sometimes whenever we have a challenging time, we go through that challenging time, and it's very difficult to see the way out. It's very difficult to see how things can get better. But when you remember the way the seasons work, is you remember that following every winter comes spring. And when you focus on that, it changes your perspective around. A lot of times the reason why we feel the January blues is because we feel stuck in the month of January, and days tend to, they tend to seem to take a long time, but again, the days get shorter. And what's really vital is that you learn to change the way you think about winter and change the way you think about January or even February and start to see them in a different way. So again, remembering that spring is following winter means that you've got something to focus on. It means the first thing you do is start to focus on the future, and you start to focus on what you have to look forward to. And again, I'm going to be getting a little bit more into what I mean by that a little bit later on. The second point, though, the second principle is something that's going to sound a little bit strange, but it's really ridiculously clever. If you're highly intelligent, you'll get it, which is, if we take January blues, which we usually use that word to describe being down and whatever, January the blues, and then we look at February, and the typical color associated with February, romantic, all that sort of wonderful stuff on Valentine's Day, is typically red. So if we take red as red is the color of February, and we take blue as the color of January, and mix the two together, we get purple, which is the symbol which is the color associated with magic. Now, the reason why I do that, I'm not just messing around with some color-coded stuff here. I'm talking about the fact that if you see that as a symbol or a metaphor, that you can see that in many ways, January and February are magical months. What do I mean by magic? Magic is the process of creating or manifesting something by being able to focus your attention and focus your effort and focus your mental energy on something. So when you look at January and February as being the very magical months that can create amazing things in your life, you can start to realize that January and February are the months to be focusing on what goals you want, to be able to align your life and design exactly what kind of life or future you want. When you use January and February to tune your brain and focus your brain over the rest of the year, you'll start to find yourself producing magical results. Because the problem is, when you're locked in your problems and you're locked in this January blues, when everyone's complaining and moaning and sulking and talking about how awful things are, it can be very different to see the wood from the trees, especially if the trees have no leaves on them and they're all it's all wood, you know? Well, that would be easier to see the wood. But you know what I'm talking about. The bottom line is, and the big problem here is that people tend to get stuck with this mentality that January never ends. When you focus on the magicality of what January and February are, and you remember that they're purple months, then you get yourself to the point where you can start to create and manifest the kind of life you want for the rest of 2013. Anyway, it's weird, but somehow it makes sense. Number 3, develop a warm attitude. You know, the reality is that there's a lot of people out there and they just moan and whine and whinge and, you know, and sulk and talk about how awful things are. And they go, oh, what's wrong with you? And then there's this meme I remember I got asked multiple times on radio shows, you know, how come January the 6th to the 7th is the most depressing day of the year? Now, who even wants to know that? Who has spent time researching, finding out what's the most depressing day of the year? It's the stupidest thing in the world. No disrespect to you if you're the person who actually came up with that idea. But the reality is that if you spend all your time focusing on what's the most depressing day of the year, and then you tell everybody, how do you think they're supposed to react to that? How is that supposed to make them feel differently? If you tell them, by the way, today's the most depressing day of the year, are they supposed to go, really? Ha, brilliant. No, because it won't make any sort of difference. So why bother spreading it? When I say develop a warm attitude, I'm talking about making sure that by your attitude, by you changing the way you talk about things, instead of you spreading negative perceptions or negative thoughts about what January is all about and about how depressing it is and telling people how depressing it should be. You know, people say, oh, January is a horrible month. And I say, why? And they say, well, first of all, you've less money than you've ever had because it's just after Christmas. You spent all your money. Second of all, the days are shorter, right? So you've less to do in the day. Third of all, there's less light, so it's kind of negative and depressing. Fourth of all, the weather's usually gloomy and horrible. Fifth of all, it's really ridiculously cold. Sixth of all, nothing much happens in January because of the weather, because of that, all that sort of stuff. Seventh of all, it's the opposite in many ways to summer. Eighth of all, there's a lot of negativity because it's just after the budget. I mean, that's just 8 reasons, you know. So what you have to do is you have to find that you have to develop a warm attitude, that's it, to make sure that you don't spread that sort of propaganda, because that's what it is, to other people and make them even more miserable. You know, it's just not right. And by the way, when you tell other people how depressing it is, you start to remind yourself of it as well. When you tell someone else, oh, you know it's the most depressing day of the year, the only fact that reminds people of is that you know the most depressing day of the year. What kind of stupid people go around memorizing depressing days? It's ridiculous. No disrespect if you're that type of person. Just try to be a little bit nicer, okay? Number 4, summer is only 150 days away. Now, I know what you're saying. It's 150 days, but it's only 150 days. Do you know? Only 150. Sun, in Ireland, you get the whole day of summer. Brilliant. You know, sun, everyone tears off their clothes, walks around with, you know, nothing on. You go, yeah, sun. You know, that's something to look forward to. And it's only 150 days away. Not 200, not 300, not 500. 150, easy. No problem at all. You know, a lot of times there's places on the planet where people live and they don't have a summer. It's just always cold. We do, unless you're watching that from those places, in which case, sorry, but if you're not, which most people aren't, 150 days is nothing goes by like that. No problem. Less than 7, well, more than 7 weeks, probably, maybe significantly more. Yeah, actually, probably about 15 weeks. But still, before you know, it'll be summer. Only 150 days away. And then number 5, Christmas is only 340 days away, more give or take a few days. Only 340. Again, imagine you lived on a planet where they didn't have Christmas. They had Christmas once every 20 years. Then you'd have 20 years to wait for Christmas. Here on this planet, we only have to wait 340 days, not 3,400 days, not 10,800 days, only 340 days. That's how soon Christmas is. And you know why Christmas is all happy? Well, it's only 340 days away, so we've that to look forward to. You know, the trick of all of these is that you have to look towards the spring and remember that these months are magical. Because when you remember that these months are magical and you develop a kind of warm attitude where you have the Christmas spirit more of the time and you spread the Christmas cheer around you, even though it's January, what you'll realize is that you can start to look forward to the summer, look forward to next Christmas, and look forward to the kinds of things that you can build in your life. I know this seems a little bit strange and a little bit crazy, but hopefully in a little bit of a fun way, you've got just a little bit of a thing that gives you a little bit of a lift in January and in February that will make you look forward, more to the next few months. So please, whatever you're doing, remember, January doesn't have to be the worst month of the year. Maybe February will get worse. No. January doesn't have to be the worst month of the year. It can be an okay month or it can be a great month. It's all to do with your attitude. So remember, warm attitude, look forward to what's in store. And again, I hope this helps you to beat the January blues. Again, maybe a little bit of a strange video, but that's what you expect at OFI. You never know what you're going to get. It's a little bit like a Christmas present. You get too late, you unwrap it, and you go, I already have it. Anyway, hope this has been of value. My name's Owen Fitzpatrick. Thanks for watching.